Meeting to order. Please rise for the invocation. Pastor, would you introduce yourself and tell everyone where you're from, so in case that people get lost, they can find where you're at. Thank you, sir.
I'm Reverend Bill Fisackerly. Yo soy el pastor en la Iglesia Prima de First United Methodist of Bonita Springs. I'm trying to learn Spanish so that I can share the hope of Jesus Christ with as many people as I can.
Great.
Let's pray together. Lord Jesus Christ, we thank you that we can gather here today. We ask that we would honor you by our words and our actions here in this room. May we be less concerned with getting our own way and more concerned with serving you in this community. May we be less concerned with having our voice heard and more concerned with listening for the voices that most people ignore. May we be open to where you call us. May we stand up unafraid against oppression, but may we also stand up unafraid when our friends are wrong and try to push us in ways we shouldn't be. Guide us, Lord, that your name would be honored by what we do tonight. Through your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Bogas.
Here.
Councilmember Purdon.
Here.
Councilmember Carr.
Here.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Here.
Councilmember Corey.
Here.
Councilmember Fullick.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Here.
We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you.
So moved.
We have a,
Second.
okay, any other discussion on the agenda? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick. Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Mayor's welcome. You're all welcome. I hope you people that are watching on TV, get ready. We're supposed to have some windy weather tonight. And I appreciate you all saving the traffic by staying home. So let's move along here. Consent agenda, I'd like to pull. No public comment.
That takes us to public comment on agenda items.
Oh, yes. Public comment. Okay.
Mayor and Council, Mike Gibson for the record. I just wanted to say, after looking over the agenda, I was happy to see that the YMCA is going to continue doing the summer program with the city. They're a great asset for the community. And also happy to see that we're coming to an agreement with the Wonder Gardens, and they're going to have a good firm lease, so that way everybody can feel good about donating to them and that they're not going anywhere. And then on another note, I'd like to let you guys know that today at the CDBG meeting, we decided to unanimously approve the city's requests. And so we're making the recommendation that the county commissioners approve it. So hopefully the city will be getting some money. Thank you.
You want to elaborate in case people don't understand that?
But the CDBG money was the 1.1 billion that the county got from the federal government. And today we voted on the planning portion, which allows different entities like the city to get studies funded, so that way we can go after the bigger projects. So the city, I believe, is $2 $500,000 studies that.
Correct. It's a planning study for our Parks and Recreation and a planning study for an update to our mobility study as well.
Okay, it's moving along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? Close the public comment. Consent agenda, I'd like to pull 8D. We can vote on the rest of the agenda if we have a motion.
I move for the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
And a second, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Purdon.
What'd you pull, Rick? Sorry, what'd you pull?
Not 8D.
8D. Caretaker's agreement.
So
Oh,
eight,
gotcha. Okay, okay.
so 8D will become 12B.
Okay,
All right, yeah, aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Okay, now we vote on 8D. I bold it because there's a misprint. This is not a lease. On the green sheet, it says it's a lease, but it's not a lease, it's a license. I just want we to vote on the change. Roll call, please.
So then we need a motion to,
We need a motion.
motion
So
to
moved.
approve that item in a
That
second.
revision.
Okay, so move to make that change with the revision.
Second.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purden.
Aye.
Okay, I believe we're up to the appointment of the Historic Preservation Board is Jockey James here. Hey, would you like to come forward and introduce you, please? You have quite an impressive resume.
Well, I have a degree in English, so I got a little elaborate. My name is Jackie James. I've lived in Bonita for 10 years. I am the Vice President of the Historical Society, and I love what we have in Bonita. My grandparents are very dedicated to the history of Bonita, and I would like to help that out.
Okay, well, I'm a mayor survey, ran 5 times, paid off the mortgage on the first house that the Historic Preservation Board, is the first Historic Society purchased in '96. With the 5 campaigns for mayor survey, we got the mortgage paid off on that. So, welcome aboard. I have a motion to approve this Jackie James.
So moved.
Second? I'll second that. Roll call, please.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purden.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 10A is the most one tonight.
Yeah, see, that's what the crowd's here for. I'll ask the clerk to please read the title.
This is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs authorizing the lease of real property known as the Everglades Wonder Gardens and providing for an effective date.
Mayor and council, I'll introduce the item, and then I would defer to Councilmember Jesse Purden. As you had requested, after our workshop, we had a series of meetings to work towards an operating agreement, which is a partnership. We've had numerous communications with Ms. Arsenal and Neil with Wonder Gardens, and we feel that we've come together to an agreement that we're all pleased to present to you this evening, and I'll let Jesse go from there.
Yeah, you all can see from the green sheet what this looks like, and, you know, this is a million miles away from where we were when this whole thing started, and, you know, I attribute that to great new leadership at the Wonder Gardens, and the executive director and the chair. They spent probably way more time with me than they would have liked, but we were able to nail this down, and I think it's a great deal for the city of Bonita Springs, for the residents, the taxpayers, and for the nonprofit. It's just it's a great scenario, I think, for everybody. It's the win-win the elusive win-win we've been looking for. It's finally here. So I'm excited, and I'm very confident that this is going to be a really great 10 years. So that's all I've got. If you have any specific questions about it, I'm ready and able.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I had like a comment that this is a real celebration for Bonita Springs and all its people. In 25 years, and we're going to have the Wonder Gardens for another 10 years at least. And I applaud the staff and Jesse and everybody that's worked on this. And I'm really happy since I was visited in 1952 at the first time. So I'm glad to see it's going to carry on forever and ever. So thank you all. Motion to approve. We have a motion and a second. Do I have a roll call, please?
One moment, this is a public hearing because of the ordinance.
Oh, yes.
Portion. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? They don't want to ruin it.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? I'd like to really say
The Wonder Gardens was very fortunate that our city council appointed Jesse to do this, because at different times they were miles apart, but Jesse brought the parties together, and we got what we have, and I think it's a good deal for the city and a good deal for them and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Well, I support the Wonder Gardens 100%. I emailed Derek this morning with some real significant issues I have with tiny little points on the, and I didn't hear back from you. So there are some issues I have with the lease agreement, and so.
I have an issue with you.
I know you do.
You had a chance to make your comments before we took the vote. Now you're
No, you
interrupt-
did not give me the chance. There was no discussion. It was public comment and then vote. You did not have discussion held.
You didn't ask it. You had a chance to discuss this. So anyways, you're gonna vote against it, yes or no, please?
No.
Okay, fine.
Mayor Steinmeier, your
Aye.
vote. The motion is approved, 6-1.
Very good.
Right.
Mayor and council, just so you're aware, as part of the agreement, we agreed to work on our media relations together, and so we'll be working with a joint informational item for the media regarding the approval of the lease as well. Laura Taylor's already working on that immediately, so.
Okay, city attorney's item.
I don't have any items. I do wish to apologize. I'm looking right now. I just now saw Councilwoman Carr's email.
9 a.m.
I was in here, Ann.
And I was nice to wait till 9 a.m.
The city manager's items.
And they're really minor issues, so.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. If you would give me an opportunity to go through a little bit of Hurricane Ian recovery, and I would ask you to give me the opportunity to also have two of our directors speak as well. As we did verbally provide briefings to each of you individually, and many of you might have seen some recent media coverage, the city did receive a call on Thursday afternoon from members of the Florida Department of Emergency Management Floodplain Office, as well as members of the FEMA Region 4 based out of Atlanta office. During that phone conversation, we were made aware that we will be receiving paperwork. I do want to reiterate, we do not have that paperwork yet, that the city will be retrograded to a Class 10 in the National Flood Insurance Program's CRS program. That's a community rating system. The city has participated in many years. In fact, most recently, we had, I'll have Aida give you a background on how many points we had received. We are currently a Class 5, which is still in effect until October 1. Class 5 provides a 25% discount to our residents that participate in the NFIP program, the flood insurance program. I would like Tony to start off, and he's going to provide just a briefing on the immediate response per hurricane and the initial windshield IDA surveys we did. This is very similar to the information that was just given at Lee County, but we wanted to make sure for transparency purposes that we gave you this background. Yes, sir.
How does the price, who picks the price that the 25% discount is against? Where does that number come from?
National Flood
The
Insurance.
National Flood Insurance Program. So at this time,
That comes from the federal government, is that what you're saying? The National Flood Insurance?
yes, the policies are carried out. There are policies that are federally backed. Insurance carriers have federally backed in policies which are participants in the National Flood Insurance Program. Because of the activities, which we're going to go through here shortly, the city residents have received a 25% discount annually on that. We are being informed that by mid-April, the city of Bonita Springs is going to receive paperwork, which we have not received yet, that the city will be retrograded. The same calls were made to Lee County, which is the unincorporated area of the county, Cape Coral, Fort Myers Beach, and Estero, the village of Estero. So I'm going to have them give them overview, and then I do have a few action items I'd like to request of the council.
Okay, thank you, Arlene. Yes, Tony.
Good evening. For the record, Mayor and Council, Tony Backhurst, Director of Neighbourhood Services. As Arlene explained, trying to give some context regarding this issue is difficult without anything written for us to kind of respond to, so it's a general overview. Hurricane Ian hit on 28th of September 2022. At that point, city staff responded and did what would be the appropriate response, which was to conduct an initial damage assessment, otherwise known as an IDA. If there's anything, I can also get through the volume of acronyms that are used by federal government and in emergency management. And this IDA, the purpose of it is to go out and determine the impact and the magnitude of an event that is had, and this one focuses on the habitability of the properties, the residences within the city. And it's out there, identify the unmet needs. So within the city of Bonita Springs, we went and did approximately 20,000 properties, and there's approximately 20 city staff that conducted those. What that IDA does, it categorizes into different levels, and this is for habitability, and destroyed is an obvious one, but then you would go to major, affected, minor, to unaffected. So that took, we had actually completed and submitted that information that's all submitted into the EOC up in Lee County, and that was completed and submitted by the 31st of October of 2022. So the numbers we got on that out of the 20,000 properties was significant. So moving on from Hurricane Ian, for the past 18 months, there's been continuous education outreach throughout the community. And we just want you to be aware that there has been a significant amount of restoration permits that have been submitted and issued, demolition permits, as well as code cases that do relate to unpermitted work. So this has been going on for 18 months and continues as we progress along. The terminology that is being utilized that we've seen in the media is SD, or substantial damage. And I know Aida is far more qualified than I am to talk to that, but I just want to read out what the definition is on that. And it's substantial damage means the damage of any origin sustained by a structure whereby the cost of restoring the structure to its before damaged condition would equal or exceed 50% of the market value of the structure before the damage occurred. So that's the 50% rule that often gets bandied around. That would not be done through an IDA, an initial damage assessment. As I said, that's primarily on habitability. And invariably the process would be, as we get into recovery and the permits start coming in, that would be dealt with and determined by a building official, floodplain administrator. They would be the ones to determine that, not the people doing the initial inspections, if that makes sense. If any questions to clarify that.
But you can't walk up, or your people in the beginning don't walk up and say, hey, there's 50% damage, because you don't know what the cost is, you don't know what the replacement cost is going to be. It's not your bag of worms.
That's for one, the code department, which comes within my purview, code enforcement officers wouldn't be able to make that determination. There's many factors involved in 50% rule. There's construction costs, and it would be done by certified building inspectors and building department and AIDA's department.
Thank you, Tony.
At this time, I'd like Aida to come forward. She is the city's floodplain coordinator. Before you should all have a list which includes a timeline as well as responses and letters that we have received through FEMA, and each of those letters are documented through the timeline. To reiterate, the city did have approximately 2,948 credit points through ISO to receive that Class 5 as on September 6, 2023. So I do want to, for full transparency, we are continuing to provide all of the services that we normally outline and that is a part of the CRS program. So none of those activities has stopped based on the phone call received.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Aida Lonergan with Community Development. I serve as the city's floodplain manager, a structural building inspector, and plans examiner. We do like government light and be able to provide consistency in our answers with a one-stop shopping. Recent events, it's most important to break this out into two different components. There's a lot of misinformation being circulated by outside sources. So I want to give you the overview and transparency of what's currently happening. That it is two distinct components that we are preparing ourselves for, that we actually do monitor on a daily basis, even when it is not a disaster event related thing. The city was actually accepted into the National Flood Insurance Program on October 16th of 2002. Previously, the city was covered under Lee County's acceptance into the program back in 1984. That participation and agreement with the NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program, allows our residents to purchase FEMA-backed flood insurance policies. So that agreement is us testifying that we are going to ensure that we are following their minimum requirements, not anything else extra. Now, the city elected to join the Community Rating System, the CRS program, in 2006. This participation, this elected participation, allows us to provide FEMA documentation that we are not only enforcing the NFIP's minimum requirements, but to shows that allows us to show them our dedication to the program and our enforcement of any higher standards, such as some standards set by the state of Florida's building code. By subjecting ourselves to these audits, which they like to call verification visits or recertification processes, we give them full transparency of our program, and in return, they give us a grade card, and that's where we get our CRS classification of a 5. The city actually secured that classification back in 2017, prior to me coming on board with the city. That was based off of their documentation they provided in 2016. So 2017 is when we hit the Class 5 community. That afforded all of our residents with a FEMA-backed flood insurance policy a 25% discount on their flood insurance policy when located in a flood zone. We have many residents who aren't located in flood zones that still are proactive and carry flood insurance. Those that are outside of FEMA's 1% chance of flooding zone, they were still receiving discounts as well, and that went up to 10%. So it's not like 25% as a whole, it kind of was a scale. But those areas in a higher probability of flooding were receiving 25% because of our transparency and our devotion to the program. The most recent CRS recertification was actually our meeting date for our audit was scheduled the day of the hurricane. So as you can imagine, we did reschedule for the safety of not only our staff, but of their staff to travel. We did reschedule. We were proactive in that. We wanted to make sure we had our numbers, we had our data, we wanted this done for the protection of our residents. We did not want to falter in this process. We did, even during Hurricane Ian recovery, prioritize that and still held to the audit. On September the 6th, they released our preliminary scores saying, thank you, here's your points, and you are on track to remain a Class 5 community. The official report from them, and I think that that's significant in our timeline of events that's coming now, the official report from FEMA, which gets published on their website in the Federal Register, that official report of our scorecard would not happen until October 1 of this year. And that is now in jeopardy from our phone call that we received last week. So talking about post-disaster events, all communities are monitored in their recovery activities. to ensure that they are being diligent in their enforcement of their programs and at least the minimum requirements. This includes reporting our damaged areas, permitting activity, permitting processes, field inspections, endless calls, endless meetings. There is no short list of the activities involved to make sure that we are being transparent in providing every ounce of data that they have asked for. At this time, what our records indicate is that as far as on-site meetings, we had 3. The first one was on November 2nd of 2022, and that was with FEMA Representative Andrew Tracy out of the Mitigation Department. Not Region 4 that we have recent communications with. In March, that shifted over with our primary contact being Jacqueline Henry out of the FEMA Region 4 office, which is located in Georgia. We met with her at Community Development both on March 8th and August the 24th. Lots of things going on in between and in the background for that. As far as data and reports that we've submitted, we had 1 report requested from Community Development to the Florida's Department of Emergency Management Floodplain Division. We satisfied that request. We submitted those documents on January 12th, normal process activities. I know that there's been a lot of conversations about 3 letters of reference. What that is actually inferring is that there were 3 requests by FEMA to local municipalities for specific data. We received those 3 requests, and they are outlined for you. They were and then we submitted and fulfilled each of those requests. We submitted reports to them on July the 7th, August the 23rd, January 12th of this year, with follow-up data on February 2nd. So each request that they sent us, we diligently met their time constraints. We provided any and all data. In your packet that we've provided, we've included acknowledgments from their staff on each of those reports that they did receive our information. And you can see that there was no feedback at that time. So we've not, at any of our reports that we've presented, there has not been an official report or feedback or critique of any data, which is not uncommon in the process. Our actual next scheduled report to the FEMA Region Office would actually be happening this week. We will be satisfying that in the next 2 days. We wanted to provide you an update first. And that is simply an updated list on us monitoring our substantial damage permit list. That is where we identify properties that we did conduct assessments and identified that they were substantially damaged and needed to come into compliance. That compliance can be met on several different categories. It could be a demo and rebuild. We have many property owners that their house is washed away, so that there is nothing left to remediate. There's nothing left on the property. It's vacant. And we do ensure that all new construction activities comply with Florida's higher regulatory standards. We have a more solid program than FEMA does. So we will be submitting that updated report to them. There are just a little over 90 of those structures on that list, and if I recall correctly, I think I've got maybe 10 or 12 that are not fully executed yet, that they're still in progress, whether they're still securing permits or final inspections. So we've actively monitored that and reported those documents. The only recommendation of a process change of any of these interactions that we've had with the FEMA representatives to this date has actually been modifying one sentence in one of our outreach documents and letters. And they did suggest to us that we modify, the statement was referencing the 50% rule, and we had in brackets, because if I say substantial damage in the street or to a resident, they really don't understand, and it causes a great deal of confusion. So we do tend with our documents to make it user-friendly, and we'll bracket it and say AKA the 50% rule, or in this aspect that they critiqued, we had used the words AKA FEMA's 50% rule. They did suggest that we modify that either to the 50% rule or Bonita's 50% rule. That was actually the only feedback and critique we received. They actually were rather pleased with us during that initial meeting in March and had asked if some of our templates, that if we would allow them to share our formatting with other municipalities in order to help them do it the right way. So that was the only critique or suggestion for modification we received back in April. Now, Wednesday of last week, we did receive a request from the FEMA Region 4 office out of Georgia requesting a conference call on Thursday, the 28th. In attendance, they had requested city staff, community development, representatives from Florida's floodplain office was in there out of FDM, and of course, 2 representatives from the FEMA Region 4 office. At that time, we were notified that ourselves, along with 4 other local communities, would be retrograded back down to a Class 10 in the CRS program, and then that if we failed to comply with our remediation plan, that it would result in the city's probation or suspension from the NFIP program, restricting residents from securing that FEMA-backed flood insurance policy, both on renewals and purchases of new policies. And it may affect grant funding. That is one of the big sticklers. They want to make sure they don't want to give money to a community if they're not enforcing minimum regulations. Documentations and details were not available during that conference call when we asked. At this time, we have not received any direct follow-up from about what their remediation plan steps are going to be. They gave us some verbal communication on that, which we actually serendipitously already had on schedule. So we're waiting for that. When questioned, they did state that there would not be an appeals process for this decision. That this was the decision and it was done, and that they would be sending us a letter outlining some steps to take this week.
So at this time, we just want to make it clear that we are not going to discontinue doing any of the regular services that we provide through community development as a staff. We're going to continue to be responsive to all requests that come. Additionally, we are being proactive in that we are still gathering more data and information and forwarding it to both FEMA office and state as new details come in on any documented properties that may have been a concern or interest of theirs. So we're continuing that process forward.
Correct. We are continuing normal operating procedures. If a report was due, we will still complete the report. Some of the things that I referenced that they referenced certain activities and the remediation plan outline that will be coming. Those are things that are normal operations for us, such as community assistance visits. The Florida Floodplain Office out of FDM had already conducted field tours of a community, which is normal operating procedure, something that we expect every year or every other year. So we actually had already scheduled our one-on-one follow-up meetings with that for next week on the 9th. On Wednesday the 10th, there is a workshop that they had scheduled. It's actually a workshop that they have been trying for over a year to get scheduled and kept canceling on us. So we're attending that. We are also in our yearly verification process through the CRS program, which is due every May. We are continuing those normal operations. Once this is worked through and the dust settles, we don't want a lack of communication or a disruption in our normal process that would affect a positive outcome. Staff has remained diligent. Council has remained diligent. We have taken every proactive step to ensure compliance and helping motivate residents to secure those permits, even if they weren't happy about it, including waiving permit fees. We have an expedited permit procedure to get people back into their homes and to find them the path for compliance. So we're proud of the steps that we've taken, and we find that we are very good stewards for Bonita.
Go ahead, sorry.
So they said that our staff has not done the right job. Is that what their excuse is? That's it?
Their statement was that they found that minimum compliance steps were not taken. However, those have not been outlined on what those perceived deficiencies may be. We do not have the data to substantiate these activities in this decision.
Yes, Nigel, go ahead.
I've got two questions for you, Ida, and then probably John and our famous Tony back there. And there's a reason for this. So, Ida, you said that in your 2 meetings in March, and the reason is for the people here, but more important, folks at home, and we get a lot of questions about what our staff didn't do. So I want to clarify some things. You had face-to-face meetings in March, correct? 2 of them?
I had one face-to-face meeting in March with Jacqueline Henry out of the FEMA Region 4 office. She was assigned to this area for hurricane recovery.
What
and then again
concerns-
in August.
What concerns and what violations were brought to your attention at that time?
None.
Correct, that's what I wanted to hear. Second is the violations or what they're talking about, we have still not received documentation of that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
We are, everyone is assuming, and what has been alluded to, FEMA in the fall conducted field tours where they drove through all of the impacted areas and created a list of buildings that they identified that may be repaired with or without permits. We responded to that report. We had 121 properties on that, 4 of which we could not locate an address, many of which were actually new construction that still under permit. We are still following up normal process activities on anything else on that list. We have accounted for some type of action for every 121 properties.
I believe a member of the media just stepped into the room. Is that correct? Are you with the media? Great, so I'm going to repeat that question to you. Our meetings that you had, our staff had with FEMA in March and August, which were face-to-face, that's correct?
Correct.
Okay, and during those meetings, were any violations or concerns communicated to you or any member of our staff?
No.
That's number one. Number two is, I think, Tony, you said there were 20,000 inspections, is that correct? Approximately?
On the initial damage assessment, 20,000.
20,000.
Approximately, yeah, it's 19,400 and something.
How many staff do we have?
We collated 20 staff to conduct those, and it was completed in 33 days.
And John, or I don't know if you, Tony, how many structural engineers do we have on our staff?
Structural engineers,
Engineers.
for the purpose of this, none.
Okay. Can any member of our staff or city employee enter a dwelling without the permission of the owner unless they have a search warrant?
No.
Okay. So would it be possible for anyone to inspect the inside of a building?
No.
Would it be possible normally for an inspector to be able to make a judgment on a roof just visually by an inspection?
The initial damage assessment is a visual inspection, not a structural inspection.
Right.
So we note deficiencies, and then it is the property owner's responsibility to follow up with licensed contractors, architects, or engineer for structural determinations as far as safety.
Okay, my last question to you is, I apologize putting you on the spot like this, Aida, is the statement that you made that the staff members from FEMA asked if the city of Bonita Springs templates could be used for other cities. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those are the only questions I have. I'm going to bring this up to all of you. I know there's other questions, but the reason for the questions, guys, is our staff, what they've done over the course of this entire year and a half, and we've been blindsided. So we see all these things of no confidence in people. I'd like to propose a vote of confidence in our staff and our city manager tonight.
Yes,
Yes, absolutely.
Would you all feel comfortable with that?
absolutely. And
Then
no
I'm-
confidence in FEMA.
Mike, how do we do that?
Just make a motion. If there's a second, I'll call a roll call vote.
Make the motion.
Oh, do you mind if I make the motion
Okay, I'll
first?
second.
Thank you. I'm making a motion that we provide from the city council a full vote of confidence in our staff, our city attorney. Fred's seconding.
Any other comments? I agree.
Yeah, I have comments on it, but I'll wait till
Please.
after this. vote.
Sorry, Jesse.
No. After we can
I'm
do
a
it
little
after the
upset
vote.
about
No, you,
this.
as you should be, and as the citizens should be. I would, my comments were, I wanted to, in my other hat, I've been working on this since Thursday for Congressman Donalds, and I've been working with Senator Scott's office. As you some of you saw this afternoon, Senator Scott, our office, and Senator Rubio and Stubbe all put out a letter objecting to this entire process. And here's the deal. This story that you all just heard from staff, this has been repeated in Fort Myers Beach, it's been Lee County, it's been Bonita Springs, it has been Cape Coral, and it's been Estero. And it's, at the end of the day, okay, so to zoom out, if you aren't familiar with CRS, CRS is essentially, it's the community rating system. And this system is very important and influential in regards to the cost of national flood insurance. You'll hear NFIP. What people are talking about is the National Flood Insurance Program. So these are very intertwined. And what they decided to do is kick Southwest Florida in the ass after Hurricane Ian, because we've gone through the appropriate processes. They've downgraded us to a degree that is, to my understanding, not historically been done. And this is the third most expensive state in the country, or the third most expensive storm in history. And now they're throwing this on us. My problems are, we still have work orders from the county that are waiting on FEMA 2 years after the storm, right? And then this idea that, okay, so also, so people have been really following it. You see Sanibel didn't get in the same situation, and Fort Myers didn't get in the same situation. One of the arguments that is just infuriating to me is, well, they went out and they proactively decided to mark all their houses and then turn everything in, right? Okay, so first of all, if that was going to be the process, and that was how it had to be done to ensure that your CRS rating, then it would behoove somebody on the federal end to let us know that, especially considering we spoke to them every single day since the storm. No problems, only praise. And then they drop this on us. This is very reminiscent of when, shortly after the storm, you may remember Matt Caldwell, our property appraiser, gave a very thorough evaluation of how we were going to value these things, right? And he went above and beyond the standards. And FEMA was on all these calls. They went through the 90-day period or whatever where they had time to comment. They didn't. And then they sent us a letter and said, hey, guess what? None of this is going to work. Everything's going to have to be back done. And it was a huge mess. And we were like, why would you blindside us like that? Now, the Thursday before Easter, after they've been working with us every single day, they get staff on the phone and they tell them that we are going to be downgraded. The congressman is of the belief that, first of all, procedurally, we are not sure that this is compliant in how this is supposed to work, number one. What are the communication parameters for an actual downgrade? You know, how have those been communicated? And when they were asked the questions, they couldn't answer them. When they were asked to give, where's the proof, they didn't have them. So you're going to downgrade us based on a staff assessment, and then you're going to downgrade us, and then you're going to tell us there's no right to appeal. That's BS. That's BS.
I've also
Yeah.
been in contact
Complete BS.
with Senator Scott's office also.
Complete BS. And you'll see in the letter, if you didn't see it, Senator Scott, Senator Rubio, and Congressman Aldis, they aren't going to take this land down. And just to give you a little bit of the inside thought process from our side of it, you know, additionally, we are going to be pushing for a congressionally compelled FEMA CRS leadership meeting where we're going to attempt to get them down here in the district. Instead of us all having to try to go up to DC and set up something up, get them down here and get all of the municipalities together, the city manager, city attorney, an elected official, the federal folks, and then we can go point by point, and we can talk about how we got downgraded, and then we can figure out the way to ensure that October 1st never comes to fruition. So we are going to make sure that it doesn't happen, and they're going to come down here, and they're going to talk to us about it. And then we're going to go through that process. And the idea that we could be in suspension until 2026 based on this process, and the fact that they didn't give us any of the appropriate info, and then the manner in which they did it, and then tried to say it's not appealable, it's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. So they're going to hear it, and this is not something that's going to, they don't get to raise everybody's flood insurance to this degree and just walk away after the situation that we as a community are currently still healing from.
Right.
Jesse,
No
maybe-
justification.
Mayor.
So the staff point, I'm sorry to be long-winded on this, but you saw staff up here. So if you're watching and you're like, ooh, staff is really defending themselves, they're defending themselves because this is such a, you're talking 25% of people's flood insurance. For the county, just for Lee County unincorporated, you're talking 17 to 18 million dollars. You're talking almost 3 million for Bonita alone. You're talking the entire city of Cape Coral. I mean, this is a significant blow to the people of Southwest Florida. We're still recovering. It's not acceptable. It will be fought, and that process is already ongoing. So staff has done nothing wrong. FEMA's in the wrong, and they're going to hear about it. So that's, for people who are listening at home who've only heard little snippets, that's it in a nutshell. But it's not over, I promise you that.
Thank you, Jesse.
We
Yes,
can do,
Fred?
we got two choices. Let's vote on this and let me make my comment.
Yes, sir.
So let's vote on it and I'll do
Vote
mine.
to compliment our staff and Jesse for all the work we're doing on this.
So full confidence.
We had a motion, we had a
Staff
second.
It's a
checked
vote.
every
Have a vote.
box, and
My motion is for a vote of confidence in our staff and our city manager.
Thank you.
That's it.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purton. Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Now, let me make my comments.
Yes,
There's a whole bunch of other things that our city has done for FEMA, that benefits FEMA, that we don't get credit for, that should even abrogate anything if we did do something wrong. For example, we are probably the only city in the state that's got an early warning system for hurricanes, and it's now got storm surge, where they can predict how deep it's going to be in the various areas of our city. That reduces people making claims because they have an earlier warning. They can fortify their place better. They can get valuables out. They'll have less requests for SBA low-interest loans, less requests for temporary housing. That's number one. Number two, we have probably one of the most stringent now stormwater management design ordinances in the state. Went in effect February of 19 as a direct result of Irma, and I had something to do with it. Forget that. It raises a storm that you got to design for to a 100-year, 24-hour storm. And it's not an isolated storm. That, again, makes things better. And that our city has done tons and tons of stormwater improvement projects since I've been on, since Irma. Many, many, many. Some are in construction, some are completed. Look what we've done for the golf course. It's in construction. 20-some million bucks, isn't it, roughly? So all these things speak above and beyond all the regulations that they're complaining about. So if we did some little thing wrong, didn't dot an I, all that should way better offset that.
And we're a donor state.
And I've got a list of this, and that's going to get to Scott and to Marco and to Stubbe, and Jesse's going to help me get the message to him.
okay, I'd like to make a comment. I believe that the federal government just wrote a new budget. Maybe that's part of it. And we happen to be a red state. I don't know. I got a bad feeling about this whole thing, and I hope we can we have to have it's the American way to appeal to our government. We are the government, we are the people. We have to be able to appeal their decisions, and I think we got Marco, all the politicians in the county and the state, federal government, we're going to straighten this out. Yes, Chris?
I'll make a couple of points. It's not that FEMA hasn't got its own warts in this whole recovery process in Lee County. For those of us that have had to deal with the National Flood Insurance Program, we all remember how many times we had to submit information on our claims. We all remember how many times we were dealing with adjusters brought in by FEMA from the Midwest or the far West that had never seen a hurricane damaged before, did not know how to adjust the claim, that had to be worked for months and months to get the claim anywhere close to realistic in terms of the damage to the homes. I think you'll also remember that 6 months after Hurricane Ian happened, there were over 12,000 homeless people in Lee County. At that point in time, 6 months after Ian, 43 people had been placed in housing by FEMA. If you'll remember the newspaper headlines at the time, FEMA cannot figure out where to put the trailers that were to be brought in and provide temporary housing for our residents. You know, when you talk about the splinter in my eye, maybe you ought to not forget about the log that's in your eye. What FEMA has done in this whole process is to divide Lee County. You know, not everybody in Lee County is affected by this. Some are not, some aren't. So, you know, you talk about a divisive attitude towards people. Their constituents in this area are the same as our constituents. We're all about serving the people, and they should also be about serving the people. So I don't understand where they're coming from in terms of this complaint. Now they've said we don't have an appeals process. Well, that's wrong. We may not have an appeals process within FEMA itself because they will probably argue that it's a voluntary program. But we always have an appeal process to the federal courts. And if we don't have an administrative appeal route, that's fine with me. I would rather not go through some administrative law judge that's hired by FEMA to hear our case. I'd rather go directly into federal court and seek the injunction that I think we're entitled to. So, you know, I think that their decision reeks of failure to provide us due process. By dividing our county among its residents, it almost smacks of revenge politics of some kind. But it really angers me that a bunch of bureaucrats sitting securely in North Georgia, far away from the impact of Ian in Southwest Florida and our community, have the gall and to tell us that we don't know what we're doing. In effect, what they're saying is that we should have done the policing of the National Flood Insurance Program for them. We should have gone out and used drones, or we should have gone out and hired many more people to go out and try to make a determination that people weren't doing unpermitted work. We were busy enough rescuing people. We were busy enough getting permits to people that wanted to get back in their homes. We were busy enough trying to find housing for people and helping people out with food and shelter. We were busy enough trying to get electricity turned back on and our communications. And for them to set up in Georgia and say, you know, 18 months later, you guys failed the test. Well, too bad for them. You know, and I'm looking forward to what action both the county and all 4 cities take. But we do have appeal rights. And we have that appeal right in the federal courts. And
Okay, I can understand all this since I've been homeless for 18 months. Fred, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, there's one more thing you guys are missing. I'm not gonna take you by the hand. FEMA is part of Homeland Security. Think about the other big problem areas that are spending tons of money that they don't have the money to probably write the bills, pay the bills. So I think this thing is bigger than just, I think the order came from the top down, and I don't think it's really fairly based, and I think there's other things that are going on. That's all I'll say, but you don't have to be a mental giant to figure it out.
One other thing we should mention, we asked for more inspectors. Okay, so we asked for more inspectors for the county and each municipality. We asked for 9 apiece. Guess what? We got 9 total for the county only. So as they expected us to do this Herculean lift that they never told us we had to do, they simultaneously were telling us they wouldn't send us any help.
And thank God for the Army Corps of Engineers that had raised about 50 volunteers to help out. 50 volunteers, the Army Corps gave Lee County to try to do an impossible job. So, you know, I'm looking forward to it.
We're in a changing mood in this country. And let's take it up with the big guy upstairs. To pray to God that we can all come out of this much better than we are today. We're all scared to death, and I think we'll come out of it. I pray we come out of it, and I think we beat this horse to death tonight. So let's see if we can move on, okay? City manager has some more for us.
No, I do, I'm sorry. So I do want to make you aware of some of the activities that we're currently doing. As I did state, we're continuing all of our regular reporting. We're copying Region 4 on that as well. We have been participating in joint meetings with the county manager and other city managers, and we're looking to continue those meetings. There is a possibility of a draft letter that the county management has talked about us all signing on to. So with your permission, there's a couple things I'd like to ask and probably get into a formulation of a vote, and I'll separate those out. One is we would like to make you aware, and I'd like a vote as this as well, is to use any and all means in our toolbox to utilize them in this process. I have already executed an agreement with our secondary agreement to our CRS consultant. I do believe she's also the same consultant for the city of Fort Myers, the Lee County and Estero. So I'm going to do a separate services agreement under my purview. Additionally, we'll be looking for some more administrative services. So should we need extra research done, any reporting of reports as Government Light, we'll have those. That will be Lisa Roberson helping with that background. And so we'll be able to fully prepare for any documentation requests or any reports we need to put together. The other item I would ask is if you could look amongst council to provide staff with a liaison. There may be meetings in other Fort Myers as we gather together. I would imagine that other elected officials will want to gather with their staff and work together on possible solutions, draft letters. Anything, of course, would be brought back for approval of council, but this could be a rapid pace meeting. And I would like to be able to call on that person and report back.
I would like to nominate either, and if you guys don't want to do it, don't. I would say Chris or Nigel both have been pretty active in it, and you can do your own. But I think both of you guys have been active in it, and like this could be like the Wonder Gardens thing. Maybe you don't want it, and that's fine. But I think that you've both been active, you've both understood it, and you both have the ability to leave in the middle of the day to go to Fort Myers Beach or Fort Myers or wherever it's going to be. So I would recommend, if you guys weren't opposed to it, or one of the two of you did want it, my thoughts are you would both be good options for us. I would remove myself because honestly, as we move forward to setting up the meetings and whatnot, I will probably be on the federal side of the table. So it shouldn't be me, bottom line. But my recommendation would be one of the two of you.
It's part of my other hat that I wear in my real life. So be happy to do it, and I've been involved with the insurance industry for a while, so maybe I can call on some of the folks that I know there, and I know Arlene and I talked about the fact that there are resources that we can have to help us, so happy to do it.
I'd be glad to have Nigel do this. Now, if you can't afford your flood insurance, is the mortgage going to get called if you don't have insurance?
It's a great question. There's probably people out there in the audience right now.
Oh, yeah, everybody's got a mortgage.
And Mayor and Council, I wouldn't be opposed to having an alternate too, because just in case something does come up and you need an alternate, this is a serious enough situation that we need to move quickly on to, so.
My younger brother?
That's fine. Yeah,
I'd like to make a motion that Nigel be the member and Chris be the alternate.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Well, Arlene, the first thing the first points that you made, do you also need a motion on that?
So I think it's fine to include all in motion, that you give us the ability to use any and all means within our toolbox to pursue understanding this retrograde situation, and also additionally, the language concerning the possibility of being put on to suspension of NFIP. That's still in all of the letters. We received no indication that that was going to occur during our call, but in the briefings provided to our state delegation, that language was in there, and it's also in the letter. So I do want to make sure that that's a part of our communication that we keep going forward with.
Okay,
Part of your motion?
Yes.
And so what that means is, so if there's a letter to be circulated, you'll give us the grace to get it circulated to you all, allow the mayor to sign those if any letters come forward too.
okay.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye,
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
very good. This is supposed to be a nice meeting tonight.
It is.
Mayor and Council, I just have one other item.
That's
I
right.
received a communication from Charles Hines. I know many of you met with Charles and Mr. Hadaway regarding the Rails to Trails. It appears that they are going to be doing some outreach to the TWP, Sun Trail program, and they would be looking for a letter of support. I don't have enough information. I just received this, so if it is the will of council to provide a letter of support within our means, I send direction to do that for the mayor's signature. We would circulate that first, but I do need to understand better, as we're not going to volunteer at this time to be any part of the ownership or maintenance that there's left to be discussed, and if that's a requirement of this letter of support, I would advise against it. What I would advise is that if it's a general letter of support for adding the trail to the program, then I feel confident that council's interest in that.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
No, it's-
I think I got direction.
Okay. That's it for you tonight? Busy girl.
Thank you very much, and I greatly appreciate your confidence in our staff and your team here. I do want to say, if there is some sort of miscommunication, that is our job to fix it, and we just want the opportunity to do so. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, mayor and council members' reports. You want to go first tonight?
Do.
All right.
I just want to extend my deepest sympathy, and I'm sure everyone here does, to Kathleen Pasadoma and family for the passing of John. And it was a shock to all, and she's so wonderful, and the family's fabulous. So I'm sure all of us extend our deepest sympathies and condolences to the family of the Pasadoma household and clan.
Hey, who wants to go next? Anybody? Fred?
No, I don't have it. I'm happy with everything.
Okay, Nigel, what do you?
You've got the card for Kathleen, so if everybody would please sign that. And again, just people understanding that it is unfortunately on public, ended up on Facebook this afternoon. People don't respect privacy very much. And he did pass away today, so the family was out to see him before they took him off life support. Tragic accident. Second thing is, first of all, council, thank you for the road closure for Memorial Day. We have our speaker, and I was reminded that and it's my failure, I think, last year we did not send a letter to our speaker for Veterans Day. So I'm just going to ask if council would be okay with a letter from the mayor thanking her for coming down and being our keynote speaker. And again, that's on me. I should have asked for the letter. Memorial Day's coming up, and we will have our annual celebration, our service in the park on Memorial Day. We have our guest speaker, Lieutenant General Elder, and I would encourage anybody who has a veteran in the household, especially those that have served in the last 40 years, that if they can get their family member out there, it would be a memorable occasion.
Okay,
I'm good.
Chris, you're good? Jamie, you have anything for us? Jesse?
Okay, real quick, I mentioned a while ago that I had spoken with Tony, who has Feed Thy Neighbor, right? And it was essentially a discussion about, I wanted to get a better idea of exactly what type of stuff they were trying to do. And to bring it back, we were talking about the on-the-job training component on the back end of the food pantry, essentially similar to Lulu's Kitchen down in Collier County, right? So what he did is he kind of put a proposal together for us, but before I give a copy to everybody, just when you see the numbers, this isn't a proposal, this isn't a direct ask from the city. What this is this allows them, assuming we do a letter of support, to then apply for grant dollars, and this is the amount of grant dollars they would need to operate. So this isn't, hey, we need this from the city. This is, hey, if you guys give us a letter, we're going to go out and try to fight for these dollars, and then it will come right back here to the city. And it's not anything that we're in a competing interest with for them. So with that said, I will pass these out, and then staff hasn't seen it yet, so I'll let them look at it, and I'm sure they'll want to get with me before we, get any further, but I wanted to get it on everybody's radar so everybody got a chance to see it.
This isn't Tony Bracco's, right?
No, not our Tony. No.
Councilman, do you have a copy for the record?
Yep, I do. I have a copy. There you go. And that's really all I have. I'm excited for the Wonder Gardens finally being done. It's been a long time coming. And again, also condolences to the Pasadoma family.
Can I ask a question, Jesse?
Yes, sir.
On the thing that Tony's given you.
Yep. And I've got, did everybody get, I'll keep passing them. Tell me if,
Are you, after you look at this, is there any possibility that you're gonna ask if our good grant writer can be of some assistance to?
I mean, it would make sense to me. I don't know Ellie's schedule, so I don't want to say that, but let's just put it this way. There's a lot of potential dollars that would return to the city for good.
Yeah.
If staff decided that Ellie was going to participate, great. That's not part of my initial ask. I think my initial ask is everybody just take a peek at this, let me get with staff, and then we'll come back with something.
So just as a matter of procedure, typically the direction of staff is that we only work on city grants.
Okay.
Number one, for staffers, but also that will open the door for many others to ask you to
I'm fine with
participate
that.
in.
Yeah,
in
no,
having
I'm not saying that she should. I'm just, for the record, I'm not saying Ellie should. Ellie, if you're here. Okay. Did everybody get one? Did everybody get one down there?
Yes.
Okay. Derek, did you, or Arlene, Derek, Matt, did you guys?
Oh, so you need 3 more?
If you give them to Mike, we'll get them.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I've got.
We
Thank you.
just read where Lark had groundbreaking on exactly what we're talking about. A culinary institute
Yep.
for everybody to learn, to fill the needs of the culinary institutes in the restaurants and employment in this area. So they just started, they had groundbreaking, it was in the business newspaper today, and we need more people that want to work. People didn't come down here to work, they came down here to play. But anyways,
Let me have one more
any more, yes.
I think May 1st or thereabouts is the 18-month anniversary of the Baron Collier downtown. And if I remember right, at the end of that 18 months, they were supposed to come back and give us their plan and so forth as to what was going to happen. I just wondered if we had heard anything about that.
I did actually, on a couple different topics this week, speak to Nick Castellaguida. So they are working on that. They've also had some submittals to John. And we discussed setting up a staff meeting as well, where he asked that I be present, probably Derek should be present, to kind of go through some walkthrough of their plans. So we touched on a couple different topics, and that was one of them.
Looking forward to seeing those.
Okay, anything else? Have we adjourned?
Takes us to item 14.
Oh, public comment, I'm sorry. We do have a public, there we go.
Good evening. I'm Jim Fitzpatrick, 28539 FB Fowler Court. This purpose of this comment is basically a thank you. This past December, my wife and granddaughter went down to Wonder Gardens and asked her to introduce herself to Neil and just tell him to come back to Rotary because we hadn't seen him in a while. And he basically, in frustration, expressed his saying, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. Went digging, went scratching, and heard about the trials and tribulations. And the results of tonight's agenda causes me to stand here to thank you, council. I want to thank staff. And I do want to thank both Neil and Wendy for their commitment to making this work for the next 10 years. I think that's great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other, Ron, you got anything to say tonight? Anybody else? Public comment? Oh, shucks, we go home. We're adjourned.